Okay, in 1952, my husband Dale Ravenscraft and I came to Mequon. I guess I better tell you I'm Joan Ravenscraft Vickerman, and I've been here since 1952. So, in the first few years we were so busy establishing our business that I didn't spend much time being involved at church. But as we grew older and the children grew older, I started to do things at church. So when Father Fleming was our first pastor, in those days you volunteered for everything. So at that time, I was the old one. Mary Ann Kress and I were the only money counters. So we always counted the money for Father Fleming. So after Father Fleming left, we had, and Father Weishauer was here then too. Oh, he was a wonderful man. He had a little band, the Three Fathers they were called. Or was that four? And they played, they used to play for dances in the hall. At the Rangeline Inn had a big hall on the back of it. And the fathers used to play their saxes and things. It was after meetings we'd go over to the Rangeline Inn and we'd sit at the bar and we'd sometimes dance to the music. But those were a long time ago. Christian women was very active in those days, and we did a lot of parties, blew up a lot of balloons, made a lot of decorations, did a lot of dinners. We did funerals and we had parties. We had our own little groups. You know, I forget what group I was in, but they were the start of good old St. James. They were fun years. So after my husband died in 1974, and I was left to run my business by myself, and I had not been involved too much. So they asked me to be on the council. I served on the council, and then just want to build a new church. So I was on the committee for that. Of course, you're always in a committee. If you're on the council, you're always in a committee. So I was on the building committee, secretary of the building committee, when they built the first church. Well, it really wasn't the first one. The little white church was beautiful. My older children went there to CCD. We had no school. So, but in 74, must have been, I'm not sure of the years, but we were busy getting ready to build the church. And I was secretary of the building committee. I guess I better go back and tell you that when we came to Mequon, we had two children. One was in second grade and the other one was, I think she was 4, she was 5. It was just her birthday. And there was no school. So as they grew up, they went to Rangeline School in those days. And then when they got older, they went to CCD in the little white church. Actually, I have to take that back. Next to the little white church was it had been at one time, I don't know if it was a church or part of the school, but it was a very small structure, and they would go there for their CCD classes. Then they closed the little white church and built the new one, and they had basketball practice in the white church. They'd go there for basketball, and those were different days. Oh, my oldest daughter is Sherry, and then Barbara. And then 9 years later, same husband, I had 2 more children, Kathy and Mark. They both went to St. James to school, and then they went on to Homestead to high school. But Sherry went to Nicolay, Barbara went to Dominican, and then later the other 2 went to Homestead. But I'm thinking back I really was not too involved in a lot of stuff at church till after my husband died in 1974. And I said to myself, I need to be doing something. We owned a motel. We built a motel, and I had to be away from it once in a while. So I became very involved at church. I was on the council, as I told you before. I was on the council. I was on the building committee. Then I was, when the lectors started, that was with Father Hayne. George Abbott and I were the two first lectors. We were the first two distributors. And I mean, yeah, George was a lector too. He's dead. They moved to Cincinnati. So we were the first two distributors, and then I became a lector. I said lectors before, I meant distributors. We were the first two distributors on the altar that were allowed on the altar when they started that. So it was George Abbott and me, and it was a powerful experience. Here I am on the altar with God. Pretty exciting. And then I became a lector. Then I was in charge of the lectors for a good number of years. Met so many wonderful, wonderful people. I just, something comes along and they ask for a volunteer. I was like, my first year on the council, we had a meeting with all the people, and Joe Cobbs was in charge of CCD. She said, I'm really going to need volunteers. And so I said, well, if I can be of any help, give me a call. So the next day my phone rang, and it was Joe Cobbs, and she said, could you teach a class? I had a business to run, and my father-in-law was living with me, and my children still at home, just two at home. And I said, sure, what do you want me to do? I think it was a 4th grade class. Yeah, it's 4th grade class. And one of the Soho boys was in my class. I can remember him. I see him now, he'll say, you were my CCD classer when I was in 4th grade. But I taught that for a while. And then she put me in the high school class. So I taught that for, I was involved, I should say. I didn't teach, I really learned from the kids. They were wonderful. We went on many retreats together at many different places, overnights, and we had fun. And where did we go? Jefferson? No, not Jefferson. Near Jefferson. Well, it's no matter. We went on retreats, and the kids. Actually, I'll tell you a little story. About a month ago, I needed some electrical work done at my house. So I called the electric company, and the young man came, and I was in my kitchen, and he looked at me, and he stood there for a minute. He said, oh, it can't be. And I said, what do you want? He said, are you Mrs. Ravenscraft? And I said, I am. He said, you used to be my CCD class teacher. So I asked him his name, and he told me, I can't remember now, but he said, he said, you were a good teacher, and we did well. So when he got all done, he's going out the door, and I said, just a minute. Are you still going to church? And he said, I'm married, I have 2 children, and yes, I'm still going to church. So that was a really neat experience. So I taught CCD for many years, went on many retreats, but I think my greatest love was to be involved in the parish and do, they ask you to do something. It's really, it touches your heart. I tell you what I did do that was really, really exciting for me was to go and visit the people who were sick and needed communion. And that Gene Kiefer started. He was just a wonderful parishioner. He's dead now. And we were the only 2 that made made all the calls. So he'd take sometimes I'd have 10 or 11. But my problem with that is I would go in, visit with them a little bit, because they're all lonesome, and they need that warm feeling. They want to tell you about their family. And we'd sit and talk for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then we'd have communion, say a little prayer, and I would leave. But I can't tell you how that impressed my life. I had one couple that had no children, and I would go to see them. He was sick, and then they both became ill. They ended up finally at Newcastle, and what a wonderful experience. They left. I had to clean their house up for them when they died. when the relative finally an old niece that they hadn't seen in years came to close up the house, and she wanted to know where everything was, and of course we had, you know, given most of it to St. Vincent de Paul and things like that. There wasn't a whole lot of it, and she took care of the money and that kind of stuff. But they were a wonderful, wonderful couple. Helen and Adam Wolf. They lived in Bayside. Many, many wonderful people. And now that I'm older and more retired, let's see, what's the last thing I did? I guess I worked with the money changers again. Of course, I counted with Father Fleming, I counted with Father Hayne, I counted with Father Spitz, and then with Father Dan for a while. And just about the time Father Matthew came, I had to stop. It was time I don't see real well. But I have to tell you, if you're at our church, which is absolutely marvelous, we have the most marvelous congregation and the people are wonderful. To go into the church just warms your heart. I just say, volunteer, become involved, be a part of whatever is going on. It's terrible. So be involved, be part of what's going on. And I guess I didn't tell you that my first husband died in 1974, and I remarried in 1990. And with my second husband, we traveled a lot. It was a marvelous. He too died in 21, and so we had 11 years together. But I've always been active. I've always been busy, and I want to say thank you for asking me to do this. And please, if you want to be a part of your parish, reach out to somebody that needs a helping hand. Even today, I make lots of calls during the week. I call. You know, I've been here so long, I know everybody, or I used to know everybody. There's an awful lot of young people now that I don't know. But I call somebody that I haven't talked to or that I feel is alone. I make at least 1 or 2 calls a week like that. So, and also, not only be involved in your church, but be involved in your community. I was an alderman for 2 terms, and I ran for mayor one time, and got beat by a very short, very close call. But that also wasn't a good experience. But just be involved, reach out. There's so many people that are alone that need a smile. So thank you for asking me, and God bless all of you.